Millie Weaver reporting for Infowars.com. We are here at the Mercury Cafe where Occupy Denver is holding a Socialist Unite rally in which they are inviting their Bernie comrades out to come and join them in their revolution. We're going to go in and check it out and see what's going on.
Keep on singing loudly. Keep on singing loudly. Keep on singing loudly. Never turning back. Never turning back.
Okay, so we're inside right now, and there are a bunch of hippie socialist people singing these songs. They passed out a songbook, and these are songs to fan the flames of discontent amongst Americans. So far they've been passing out a lot of propaganda like t-shirts, pamphlets, things like that, and it's all like eat the rich, do away with the rich. So I want to go ask some of these people what their views are and how they plan to accomplish their goal of socialism in the United States. How would you do away with the rich? Like, what steps would that involve?
I don't know. I mean, it's not up to me. When this has happened before, in the French Revolution and so forth, people just went in and took it and divided it up.
Basically, it would be workers beginning to organize within the workplace, within their communities, and then through direct democracy, building up from that and creating a revolutionary working class that could ultimately create a society that is based on equality and freedom. Socialism or anarchism, however you want to describe the term that a free society would be, is not based on utopia or idealism. It's actually built on workers taking over the structures within society, and then from the base up restructuring the entire society.
So do you agree with the saying that we should eat the rich?
I like it as a slogan, yes.
Not literally.
Not literally.
Literally. Not quite cannibals.
But I like the slogan because the rich, when we talk about the rich, we're talking about people who have stockpiled and hoarded wealth just to keep it away from other people, for no other reason than to keep it away from other people so that they have the power. So eating the rich really just means taking back what they've stolen from us, bringing them down to our level, and raising ourselves back up so that we're all lateral, so we're all horizontal and equal.
And if possible, to, I guess you could say, re-educate the bourgeois or the rich in a way, because there are those to achieve socialism it's a transition phase from capitalism, from the dogmatic society into communism. That's the whole idea of socialism. So, as socialists here in America, for now, I believe that the thing to focus on is to combat the petty bourgeois and the bourgeois system and the white supremacy in the police state that's currently attacks specifically my neighborhoods and my people and communities, and as well as African people and many other oppressed people who are here living in the U.S.
IWW from its inception has been a revolutionary union. So for example, instead of a trade union where you would have a worker basically who's a carpenter in that union organizing for carpenters, instead across industry workers would be organizing as a class for our common interests. By doing that, you build a certain power within society that then workers can take over industry and run it ourselves. So it's the concept and practice is self-management.
We believe that for about at least 30 years, there hasn't been any radicalization of the masses, especially the oppressed. And seeing that today, these peaceful protests and these passive movements, they achieve nothing really. So we find this is the only way and the best way that we can combat the bourgeois, the ruling class, the police state, and racism, sexism, homophobia,
Xenophobia.
etc., etc.
The view of the IWW is ultimately that through struggle, whether that be nonviolent or violent struggle, would take over the means of production, using a Marxian term. In other words, workers would take over the means by which we produce everything in our society.
We're not necessarily talking just about socialism. We're talking about workers seizing the means of production, and so that there are some people who have done that in South America. There are people who are doing that in other places in Europe.
The clearest example of what I'm talking about is the communes in the Spanish Civil War in the 1930s, the Hungarian Society in 1956 when they took over all the workplaces, things like that, the French Revolution.
We talk about government is self-governance. A good example of this is with the Zapatistas in the province of Chiapas in Mexico. With the Zapatistas is that the Zapatistas then took over this section of territory in Chiapas and began to, through a revolutionary process, restructuring the entire society. This is self-governance.
How do you plan on changing it? If you're not a Bernie Sanders supporter who is a socialist, how do you plan on changing it?
He's not socialist. He believes in capitalism. He believes in the state. That's not what we call socialism.
What do you think about recently the KKK endorsing Hillary Clinton?
I mean, it was no surprise. It was no surprise at all. I mean, we already knew that the Clintons were an incredibly racist couple. Everyone who's close to them is well known to be a white supremacist and an outspoken racist. And it's never really been, it's never really been a secret that they had the support of the Klan. They had the support of the Klan back when Bill was president. They've had the support of the Klan when Clinton was running the first time in 2008, when Hillary was running. And the fact that, they came out and said, yeah, we support Hillary Clinton now, really did not come as a shock, I don't think, to anybody.
What do you think about Donald Trump?
Donald Trump, he's literally running Adolf Hitler's campaign. Okay, first of all, I just want to throw that out there. I know we say that we shouldn't compare him to Hitler, but the fact is, when he first announced his campaign, it was like he took Mein Kampf and just ran with it. And furthermore, I'd like to point out that since Donald J. Trump announced his candidacy for the President of the United States of America, the Ku Klux Klan has more than doubled in the United States. That's less than a year. Thank you.
The laws of this government, the Constitution of this government was made by a bunch of white slaveholding men back when women and people of color couldn't even vote. I believe that that's what contaminated the law that you were talking about.
So you think that white people contaminated the law?
Oh yeah.
Wow. I never heard that before.
It's is that democracy?
But how could you blame it just on one color of people?
Because that's the only ones that had a vote back then.
How do you plan to bring about this uprising, and do you condone using violence?
Absolutely. 100% I condone violence.
We have a group here, PLF, People's Liberation Front. We are willing to take up armed resistance, Marxist-Leninist organization that carries the torch of the Black Panthers and the Brown Berets.
Since you said you believe in violence, where's the limit? Where do you draw the limit? Like, people who don't share your beliefs, would they be subject to violence?
No. I condone violence 100% against people like fascists, against militarized police. Someone who just doesn't agree with me, no, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna have a conversation. Until you pose a threat to myself or the people around me, to my community, I have no need to use violence. But when it comes to that point where violence becomes necessary, I am 100% willing to use it, and I think that everyone else should be also.
So what about the the home militias that have sworn oaths to the Constitution and upholding it.
You're talking about the exact people I'm talking about using violence against. These are nationalists. These are fascists. These are not American patriots. These are not people who believe in liberty and freedom. These are about mostly white supremacists who want to control the country themselves and who arm themselves so that one day they can do that. They are among the many enemies of socialism. They're among the many enemies of communism. They're among the many enemies of the people. We don't affiliate with them. We don't associate with them. There might be some very small points on which we seem similar, but that's about where it is.
What about veterans that have taken constitutional oaths to uphold and will fight to defend the American way and the Constitution? Would those people be part of that group you're talking about?
Now, when you say the veterans who have taken that oath,
Yeah.
I'm gonna need an example because I can't think of any who have actually done that in the last 100 years. The only veterans I'm aware of are the ones who've gone and fought in these for-profit wars that serve no purpose to the American people, that have drained the American people, that have allowed them to carry out genocides and rapes and tortures of innocent people, who have turned fucking children into terrorists. Pardon my language, I'm sorry, but who have turned children into terrorists by bombing their parents. So no, I'm gonna need some clarification on what you mean.
Wouldn't you say that some of the few corrupt politicians that are in office right now that are making those decisions and not necessarily the American people that believe in the Constitution?
I mean, the politicians are making the decisions, yes.
Like the soldiers aren't necessarily making
No,
the
the
decisions.
soldiers, every single time they follow an order, any order, they made the conscious decision to do that. They made the decision of themselves to undertake that action, and they are not only as responsible, but they are more responsible because they are the hand that pulls the trigger.
So even those that just believe that they're protecting Americans back home and their rights and freedoms.
Well, first of all, they're not. They're not doing that. Second of all, any person who looks at any act by the United States military can see that this is not right. And those who choose to follow the orders and do it, they are no better than the SS who did the same thing. All right, remember the Nuremberg trials. Oh, we were just following orders. Well, that's the same exact excuse, and the only excuse that the American soldiers and the American police use. It's the only one they have, because it's the only one that exists for them, because there's no other justification for their actions. And it absolutely does not justify the actions they are undertaking. Violence against innocent people in other countries, sucking us dry, killing them, raping them, slaughtering them, supporting the genocide of Palestine. That's not acceptable in any mass. These are not good people.
So would you say you are? Would you say that you are a Bernie Sanders supporter, given that he is socialist?
I am supporting Bernie Sanders in this election. However, I'm only doing that because I see him as someone who's going to lay the groundwork for a better world in the future. He is not the solution. He is just a good first step towards it.
So do you view gun control in that same way?
I think that my opinion's a little different than most people's. I would personally like to see a world that didn't have guns in it. But while there are guns, gun control is just not an option. Anyways, I've been talking a while. Let him take it over.
We believe that the people should arm themselves. And that's what we advocate in the PLF as well. To take armed resistance against any force, racist force, the KKK, police state, who threaten or try to destroy our communities and people. And the view of gun control, guns should be in the hands of the people, not the state. That's the whole point. That's how we view gun control.
Is somebody working towards something and then being exchanged with pay, isn't that an equal trade for their labor for pay?
No. 9/10 of what the workers produce in value is stolen from them, and we will get back a small portion of that, maybe 1 to 2% of that, back as wages. IWW's exception has been about the abolition of the wage system. Get rid of wages completely, base our society on human need according to what people's contribution can be within society.
We just think that the people that do the work should get the reward. That's all.
Viva la revolución!
So wow, that was pretty intense. It seems like there are a lot of extremists in that building right now, and they are socialists that are ready to take up arms and violence against the American people. And it looked like they were aiming to target that violence toward military men and military people. So that's pretty concerning, and I'm not that surprised given that this is a socialist gathering right now. But Millie Weaver here reporting for Infowars.com.
It appears there are currently some very organized and extremely radical socialist cult-like groups plotting an overthrow of America here in the States, and they see Bernie Sanders' election as a step toward their end goal. These groups are even offering a comprehensive training program to turn out new recruits to their agenda. But what's most concerning is that the one belief that all of these socialist comrades shared was that America itself represented white supremacy, and they pinned white man as the scapegoat for America's problems. What's crucial to note is that in the same way, a Jewish conspiracy was blamed for all of Germany's problems by the National Socialist Workers Party. And thus, the early beginnings of the latter generations repeating a dark part of history that our grandparents warned never to repeat.